Hi, I'm Kelly with CitrusCycles.ca. I'm really excited to show you the Packster 40 from the German company Ries & Müller. I'm excited because I love cargo e-bikes. If you aren't sure if a cargo bike is for you, keep watching, and by the end of the video and the ride test, you might discover that a cargo e-bike can have a dramatic impact on the quality of your life. I know that a cargo e-bike is going to help you ride your bike instead of driving a car. That's going to make you and your family happier and healthier. It's going to save you money, and of course it helps the environment. If you've got kids, I can share from my own personal experience, and any of our customers who have a cargo e-bike say the same thing. Riding a cargo e-bike as a family is a much more enjoyable experience than driving in a vehicle. It's fun, it encourages interaction with each other and the world around you. Even if you don't have kids, you'll ride more often and have more fun getting where you need to go when you have a cargo e-bike.
So obviously I'm pretty excited about cargo e-bikes, but I'm especially excited about the Packster 40. It's a one-size-fits-all bike available in two colors, the red you see here and a light gray that you can see on our website. Each bike is custom made in Germany, so the quality, the attention to detail, and engineering that goes into each bike is incredible. The Packster 40 is part of the popular Packster series. So you've got the Packster 60 and the Packster 80, and you can find video reviews of the other models on our website at CitrusCycles.ca. To me, the Packster 40 is like a crossover cargo e-bike. It's not much bigger than a regular e-bike, making it really easy to ride. Anyone of any height, age, or experience can just jump right on and start riding. Yet, despite it not being much bigger than a regular bike, you've got lots of room for cargo. You could put a child in the front and on the rear rack in a child seat. Lots of room for groceries in the front. Cool thing is you can put pannier bags on the side here, at the front, both sides, and of course on the back as well. There's even a locking glove compartment right inside here, which is fantastic. And all of those options are available, giving you really everything that you need in a cargo bike, but a nice, compact, easy to ride size. Okay, I could go on and on about how much I love cargo bikes, and I'll probably talk a little bit more about that later. But first, I should mention that you can find all the detailed specs, the current pricing, and even order the Packster online on our website at CitrusCycles.ca. There you'll find our contact info, so you can call or email to ask questions, or to schedule an appointment to try it here in Ladysmith or have it bring to you anywhere on Vancouver Island or the Lower Mainland as part of our Try at Home program. So in a few minutes I'm going to go over all of the details of this bike. But let me answer this question first. Why would you want a cargo e-bike? Well, with a crossover cargo e-bike like the Packster 40 here, you're going to ride it more often than a regular bike. The two biggest reasons why people drive instead of riding their bike is that they need to take stuff with them wherever they're going, and because they don't want to struggle to get up hills or go long distances. The Packster solves both problems. Compared to a regular bike, an e-bike with the Bosch mid-drive here, we've got the Performance Line CX, that's going to make the hills and the wind and distances easy. You can get to your destination without being hot and sweaty and feeling exhausted. With the Packster 40, you have room for stuff. You could put a child, groceries, your purse, laptop, whatever you need to bring with you. You don't have to worry about putting your gears in pannier bags and thinking ahead and organizing stuff. Just throw it in the box here. Cover it up with the tarp, like that, and you're good to go. You can even get it with this cool locking glove compartment here. So let me grab the key and open that up so you can see what it looks like. So it is locking, which is great if you want to put something in there, not have to worry about bringing it along with you. And again, it's really neat that Ries & Müller kind of thought this through and said, okay, what can we do so that people don't have to drive? What is it that they like about their cars? Well, they like bringing stuff and they like having it secure. So I can open that up with the key, and we've got this nice lockable compartment here that you can store your stuff in and lock it back up. So very cool. I should mention the key is different than the usual Avis key that's used for the folding lock and the battery. I guess Avis probably doesn't make a key that matches that. So basically you've got the ability to just throw stuff in. If you do need more room or want to use the panniers, you can do that. Put them on the front, put them on the back. So I love using my Packster for grocery shopping. I don't have to fight traffic or find a place to park. I just park right in the front, near the front door, lock it up, and go inside. And to that end, Reese & Mueller did some really clever things. They've added a wheel lock here. So this is sometimes known as a cafe lock or a frame lock. And what it does is when I put the key in on this side, I'll see if I can do it with one hand or not. And then pull the lever down on this side. Again, one-handed, there we go. You can see a bar coming through and locking in on the other side. Now the bike can't be wheeled away. This is going to prevent the bike from moving. Of course, you would take the key with you. And this key is the same key that we use for removing the battery from the frame if you want to charge the battery. And it's also the same key for the optional ABUS folding lock here, which I'm going to show you in a moment. But back to the frame lock, this metal bar is preventing the bike from being ridden away. So when I'm doing a quick grocery run, this is all that I use, and hopefully no bike thieves are watching this and figure this out, because it only immobilizes the bike. If you had two people come along and one grabbed the back end and one grabbed the front end and put it in the back of their pickup truck, they could actually walk off with my bike. But that's going to require a fair bit of planning, and honestly, everybody knows this is my bike, so it's going to be a little bit hard for them to sell it on to somebody. Having said that, you probably, if you are going to leave it for longer, you would want to take some extra security measures. So when you order the bike, you can order it with the ABUS folding lock here. This is actually really cool because it's one of the newer designs from ABUS. And so that means to remove it, I just open up the little latch here and it tips right out. Isn't that cool? In the past, you had a case and you'd have to open up the lid and take it out, and this is really neat. You just open that up and it comes right out. And with a folding lock, like I said, this is the same key to open up the lock here as the key for the frame lock over here, and also for removing the batteries from the bike. So I can open that up by turning the key, take the key out, and now I can put the key in the folding lock here to open it up. And what's interesting about the folding lock design is that it actually unlocks at the opposite side. So if you've got one of these and wondering how to get it open, now you'll notice the bar at the other end here is the bar that will slide out now that I've unlocked it. And a little bit difficult to have one hand on the camera and one hand showing you the folding lock, but basically these are metal bars. They're protected by this rubber coating here to protect your frame. And so it has the strength of a U-lock. With a cable lock, of course, those can be cut. With a steel bars like this, it's much harder to defeat. But unlike a U-lock, of course, as you saw, there's a nice little easy place to put it on your frame. You're not trying to figure out how to bring it along with you. But also, unlike a U-lock, you can see it's pretty flexible because each of these metal bars pivots here. And so that allows you to easily wrap this lock around the frame and then around a bike lock. So it makes it a lot more convenient than a U-lock, but far more secure than a typical folding lock. So I'm just going to pause here to put the lock back on, so I can use both hands for that. Okay, so I've got the folding lock back on here, and like I said, you've got the frame lock to mobilize the bike and prevent the back wheel from being removed, and then you can use the folding lock here to secure your bike to an immovable object so that the bike can't be picked up. This is an option that when you order the bike, it's custom made for you in Germany, and they will optionally add that. When you go for that option, they also add the water bottle cage, which is pretty cool, and I'll come back to that. One other thing while I'm talking about locks is the fact that the frame lock here does actually have a hole on the other side here, and you may be wondering what that hole is for. You can actually get an ABUS chain. Let me just go grab it and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so here's the chain. You can see it's folded in half right now. It's actually quite long, and it's got this end here that actually goes right into the frame lock. And so it doesn't actually have its own key. Instead, it becomes part of the frame lock, and so your key that locks and unlocks the frame lock also unlocks and locks this chain. And so then you can thread the chain through the ring here and wrap it around some object as well. So that's another option as well for securing the bike. Lots of different possibilities. So obviously the Packster is a box style cargo e-bike with your cargo going in front of you. So there's a number of advantage to this. If you have kids, being able to see your passenger in front of you and communicate with them is brilliant. In the Packster 40, the child would be sitting with their back against here, facing you, and you of course facing them, which is great for having a conversation with them. Interestingly, in the Packster 60 and the Packster 80, they've designed the bike so that the child faces forward, but when I was riding with my daughter in the Packster 80, she always loved sitting the other way and facing me so we could carry on our conversation, and we really liked that. You can also, with this box style, wrap up the kids in blankets, or you can even use this cover here. Is available to keep them warm. So the cover, it's actually really clever. It's got this Velcro strap section here that you can roll it up and put it away. You can of course pull it all the way over and cover the entire box. Just trying to do that with one hand here. There we go. Sort of the moment of darkness. So that actually covers up the whole box here, the front. Maybe if you've got cargo, it's great, it's waterproof, it's not going to blow off. So when I'm going grocery shopping or something like that, I love this. I don't have to bring panty bags. I just throw my groceries in there, cover it up, and I'm good to go. But a really clever thing that Reese&Mueller did is they've got these straps on the side here that if I undo the front, I can actually just do it up halfway. Again, it's probably easier with two hands, but I'll give it a try with one hand here. Just find that strap, and I've even got a nice little Reese&Mueller tie there that I can use to grab it. Sorry again about the camera. There we go. And that goes around this little knob on this side, on either side, and then this rolls up. I'll just tuck it underneath right now, but it would actually roll up, and there's a Velcro strap here that you use to fasten it like that. And so then if you've got a kid in the front there, obviously they can still see where they're going and talk to you, but they're protected a little bit from the elements. And like I said, you could put some blankets in there or something like that. And that makes it a really cozy experience. And that is unique to the Packster 40. Like I said, I've used the Packster 80. I love it. It has a nice big box in the front. And with the Packster 40, you can also get the box, or you can get the carry system. And this is what you see here. So let me just open up the tarp again for you and put that back. There we go. You can see the carry system. This is actually fabric. It's soft, it's comfortable, it's really sturdy, it is waterproof, very strong. But that allows them to do some things like there's a little holder here for you could put a water bottle in there, or snacks, or anything you want. And so if you do have a passenger, they have access to that. Of course, you have access to that as well. If I roll up the tarp there, or if you didn't have a tarp, the tarp is optional. You don't have to get it. You'll notice there's also a zippered compartment here. You could put your wallet and keys or whatever you want in there, or you've also got the locking glove compartment. So the Packster 40 is quite unique in having the option of a box, so you can get this with a box with wooden sides, but you can also get this really cool compartment. And so, if kids are sitting in there, they can eat or play games, read or sleep. With the carry system, you can also get the child seat, and with the child seat, it adds a headrest up here, which is really cool, and it also includes padding, a seat cushion, and a seat belt, and to help secure your child. And instead of a glove compartment, this opens up, and the child can, or this doesn't open, the lid isn't here. Instead, there's a little bit of a hole there for your child to put their feet. And when you're not using the child system, then the whole thing folds up into that hole. And then, so you drop your kids off, and now you want to go do your grocery shopping. It's not taking up room in the front. So brilliant. A lot of great ideas, that Reese&Mueller put together so that you can really use this for a lot of different things. You can also really easily remove the carry system if you wanted to. So this is all held on by Velcro strapping here. So you could actually remove the Velcro straps, no tools required, take the carry system off. Obviously the frame is going to stay. And that would allow you to haul wide things. For example, if you needed to bring some boards or something that were wider than the box or the carry system, you can remove those. If you do get the box, the sides on the box are also removable. So you can, again, haul large things, which is really cool. And I mentioned the tarp is optional. I always recommend getting it. You'll never know when you'll want to use it, and it's really very handy. And as I pointed out, it's a two-position tarp, so you can cover the whole thing or just part of it if you have a passenger. Unlike the Packster 60 and 80, however, you can't get a child cover that completely covers the child. I believe the reason for that is because your child's head is going to be quite a bit higher than the box, and the angle here would make it a little bit harder. If you check out our website for the Packster 60 and 80, you'll see that they've designed it so that your child would be sitting against here and looking forward, and so then there's a cover that can come quite high to keep them out of the elements. But this tarp works fairly well, and the nice thing about that again is you can have that two-way communication, and my daughter and I have had all sorts of fantastic conversations on our way to school. So aside from the cargo advantages of a box bike, which I just talked about, they also have a much shorter chain or belt, which is great. So this is the Packster 40 Touring. That comes with a 10-speed Shimano Dior. It's an 11 to 42 tooth cassette on the back here. We've got a derailleur with the Shadow Plus clutch, so you can turn that on and really tighten up the chain, makes the shifting a little snappier, keeps the chain from bouncing around. And it also, at the front here, has a visual indicator, even with numbers. Sometimes they don't have numbers, but that one does. It shows you the 10 numbers there for your gearing system. It also has the trigger shifters here, and I believe this one is bidirectional, so you can push with your thumb or pull with your index finger. You can also pay a bit more and get the Packster 40 New Vinci, which replaces the chain with a zero maintenance Gates CDX carbon belt, which I love. Let me go over to the Nevo and show you what that looks like. Okay, so this is a Nevo. It's obviously not the Packster, but the drive system is the same, and hey, the color is the same as well. So instead of a chain, you can see here we've got the Gates CDX belt, and I love that because it is zero maintenance. And for more details on this whole system, check out my video review of the Packster 80, where I go through it in detail. So the great thing about the New Vinci system is, unlike a cassette and derailleur, it doesn't wear out, it doesn't require any maintenance or cleaning, and you can shift while you are stopped. So we've got this handy little grip twist shifter here that you can use to shift, and again, you can check out all the details on how that works in my Packster 80 video. But the idea is that on a cargo bike, it's quite often that you'll need to stop suddenly if you're riding in an urban environment, and you'll find yourself in the wrong gear. So being able to shift while you're stopped means that you don't have to worry about being in the right gear, downshifting before you stop. And having a CVT transmission means there aren't a specific number of gears. You can just twist this until you find the perfect cadence. And so when you're climbing a hill that has a variable grade, you just keep adjusting as the grade changes. And of course, when you get home, you don't have to worry about keeping your chain clean and oiled, because there isn't one. There's a belt, and the belt, literally, there's no maintenance. You don't have to do anything to it. Same with the New Vinci hub. It's a sealed hub, so there's no maintenance requirement. The downside is it is a higher upfront cost and is a little bit heavier. Now here's an example of the German engineering and design that goes into all the Riesenmuller bikes. This is an elevated chainstay. What that means is that you'll notice the chain is actually running entirely below the chainstay. On most bikes, you'll notice that the chain runs above and below the chainstay. There's an advantage that even when you have a chain, in that the chain isn't going to be slapping, making noise, or chipping the chainstay. The reason why Reese and Mueller would have done this for all the Packster bikes, though, is because with the Packster you have the option of the Gates carbon belt. So let me go over to a bike that has that belt to show you what I mean. Okay, so here's the Nevo again with the Gates carbon belt, and you can see that if you needed to replace a chain, of course you can break the chain, take it off the bike, replace it, and use a missing link to put the chain back on. But when you have a belt, if this belt were running above and below the chainstay, like the chains on most bikes run, you would have a problem because you can't break the belt. And since it's going above and below, there would be no way to remove the belt. So some bike manufacturers, when they're making a bike like this that uses a belt, they'll put a break in the frame. A couple bolts you loosen off, and now there's a hole in your frame, and then you can pass the belt through that. For Reese and Mueller, that wasn't going to be an option. They want a bike that's really sturdy, especially on a cargo bike, and so they designed it so that the chainstay runs entirely above the belt. So to change the belt on here, you simply loosen off the bolt, drop the wheel, replace the belt, put it back on. No need to break the frame at all. Okay, so aside from the shorter belt or chain, and if you look at my video reviews of some of the long tail cargo bikes where you have the loading deck at the back, like the Felt Brew Hall or the Yuba Spicy Curry, you'll notice they have much longer chains. So you've got an advantage with the box bike here of having a shorter chain or belt. But a cargo bike with the box in the front also has a lower sense of gravity, so the lower center of gravity can really help with stability. It has a lower standover height, so this height here from the ground to the top tube is really very low, so it makes it really accessible to get on and off the bike. Like the rest of the Packster series, the Packster 40 comes with an incredible kickstand. I love this kickstand. It's really easy to deploy and release, so basically when I'm ready to start moving, all I have to do is roll the bike forward and that kickstand is going to release. And then I can just take my foot and put it up. And when I want to put the kickstand down, let's see if I can show you that here. I'm going to put the kickstand down. I just have to put my foot there and roll the bike back and it deploys. So at no point do I have to pick up the bike. I don't have to carry any of the weight of the bike. I just have to shift the bike forward and backwards. Once that's deployed, you can see it's really very stable. So I've had my kids are now 10 and 15, and I've had them both in my Packster 80, which uses the same kickstand, and I can deploy the kickstand. They can climb right in, climb right out, and it's really very stable. So in addition to the low standover height, it has some great adjustability. So we've got an adjustable height here on the handlebars. So we've got a quick release that we open up, just like a quick release on a seat. And then to make sure that this is really safe and very stable, we have a second point of change that we need to make here, and that is to push this little pin in. And now we can lower. You can see we can lower quite a ways down all the way to here, or raise by pushing the button in here and lifting up the handlebars. So we can get quite a bit higher and lower, and once you've got it at the height you want it to, you simply close the quick release lever here. And so no tools are required, but a lot of times systems like this tend to be they get loose over time as you ride, and that's not good. This is really strong, durable. It's not going to get loose, and so you've got quite a bit of adjustments here. You can see you get your bars pretty much down to here or quite a bit higher. So if you are sharing this bike, not only can you adjust the height of the handlebars, but when you adjust the height of the seat here, and again it's a quick release, you'll notice that there's an angle on the seat post tube here, and so as the seat comes up, it goes further back from the handlebars, increasing that reach. So you can really lengthen the reach, and typically, for a taller person, you're going to have longer arms, and so you want to be further back. And for a shorter person, they're going to want to be closer to the handlebars. Now, it doesn't have a specific reach adjustment. The only adjustment here is the height. And like I said, as you increase the height of the seat, that will increase the distance for the reach. But the load, also from Reese and Mueller, is a full suspension cargo e-bike, and that one does actually have an adjustable reach here with the 3 positions. You can actually move the bars closer or further away independently from adjusting the seat. You can find the full details on that bike on our website at citruscycles.ca. Reese and Mueller has really thought through their design on the Packster 40, and you notice that when you come to ride it. The ergon grips, for example, really very comfortable. I love these grips. They are locking, so they're not going to twist on you if you put your weight on them. They've included a bell so that you can make sure people know that you're coming. You can tell they spent a lot of time riding their bikes because they've thoughtfully added the water bottle cage here. Seems like a small thing, but it's a perfect position, really easy to reach, and a lot of times on e-bikes there isn't anywhere for a water bottle cage, and so it's nice that they've included that. If you get the optional ABUS folding lock, when you get them to build your bike for you in Germany, they'll add that and the water bottle cage. And it's actually a nice cage. It's from Zafal. It's made in France. Of course, those are just standard mounting points, so if you had a different cage you wanted to put on there, you could certainly do that. The adjustments that you can make, like adjusting the handlebar height here, not only make sure that it fits you to make it more comfortable, but it also keeps you safer. And so for that reason, they use a really great thud buster suspension seat post here from Cane Creek. Again, it keeps you very comfortable, and I can attest to that. I've ridden a lot of bikes with a thud buster, and it's a great system. But it also helps with safety because you can stay better in control of your bike when you're going over bumps. It's a really comfortable Selle Royale saddle. I quite like it, but of course you could change it to something else if you don't find it comfortable. And like the suspension seat post, the suspension fork here also helps smooth out the ride and make it more enjoyable. But it also means you're not going to have to swerve suddenly to avoid potholes or broken pavement. So that can be alarming to your passengers, but it can also make it dangerous if there's vehicles around you. So the fact we've got the suspension seat post here, again, it's a comfort thing, which means you'll ride your bike more, but it's also a safety thing, which also means you'll ride your bike more and have more confidence in doing so. It just makes it a lot more enjoyable. So they've used this new SR Suntour XCM32 spring fork. It's got 80 millimeters of travel. I'm really excited about this fork actually. It's new for the 2018 Packsters with Reese and Mueller, and I think it's an improvement over the previous suspension fork. It's quite a bit stronger, burlier. We've got a through axle down here. It's not a quick release, so you will need an Allen key to remove that. But with a through axle, you actually have to pull the axle all the way out in order for the wheel to be removed. So that makes it a much stiffer and a much safer setup on the suspension fork. The rear wheel does have a quick release. However, let me show you that. On the side here, we've got a quick release. And, before I should have showed you, let me go back to the front. Good thing it's a short bike. We also have preload adjustment on the front fork here as well, so you can adjust that. Okay, and while we're back here at the rear wheel talking about comfort, there are full fenders on the back and on the front here as well. Even a little mud guard on the front, which is cool. And so that's going to help keep you clean. There isn't a full-length chain guard on the front here, but the chain is really tucked in kind of behind really close to the frame and underneath the chainstay here. So what they've done instead is they've put a guard here on the chain ring, and that protects the chain ring and also keeps your pants from getting in there. The pedals are typical pedals that we would see for an urban bike with some soft rubber grips. Personally, I would change these to something that has pins. I ride all year, I ride in the rain, and so I like to have something with pins to keep my feet from sliding off. I can understand why Reese and Mueller went with these pedals, because pedals with pins certainly can scrape up your shins if you're not careful. But what I use, I think I've got them right here. Yeah, I often use these Eclipse Airline pedals because not only do they have the pins here, but they also have sealed axle bearings. So if you ride a lot in the rain like I do, that's an upgrade that you might want to consider. But we do have reflectors on the pedals as well, which is great. Okay, I apologize that the bike has suddenly become a lot dirtier. I actually had to redo this section of the video review after having done the ride test, as there was a problem with the memory card on the camera. So another way that they've made the Packster really comfortable is with the tires. So the rear tire is a 26-inch. It's the Schwalbe Big Ben Plus. And it's a balloon tire, and so that gives you a high volume of air at a low pressure, and that really makes it very comfortable. That absorbs a lot of the bumps in the road and does an effective job of really smoothing things out for you. That larger tire size at the back also helps because it gives you a lower attack angle, which allows you to very easily roll over obstacles and really makes it a very comfortable ride. These are 55 millimeter wide tires, so they're actually quite wide, and again, that gives you a lot of stability, more traction. They are puncture resistant as well. We've got the Performance Line Green Guard snakeskin, which gives you a bit of a Kevlar lining that helps with puncture resistance. And you know, really, when you're using your cargo bike as a vehicle replacement, you want it to be reliable, and that's one of the great things about the Riesenmuller bikes is they go with really high quality components that are going to be trouble-free, and so you've got that high degree of puncture resistance with the tires. The front tire is also a Big Ben Plus, again with that increased puncture resistance, but of course it is a 20-inch tire, and that's necessary to keep the front box here nice and low, to keep your center of gravity low. Makes it very well balanced, but we've still got a fair bit of clearance here, so you're not going to be bottoming out over curbs or anything like that. To increase your safety, these do have the Schwalbe reflective strip both in the front and the rear tire there, which gives you a lot of visibility. And speaking of safety, there are also reflectors on the front forks here, which is great. In addition to the reflector, we have the Supernova. This is an E3 series e-bike light. It's the V6S. It's quite bright, and it's mounted on the fork here, so when you steer, of course, the light is going to turn and point in the direction that you're riding. So it really nice and bright, and really the only minor complaint I would have about the Supernova light is that there isn't a cutout to have light shining out of the side, but fortunately, because we've got those reflective stripes on the tires, you still are very, very visible. So the lights are controlled by your Intuvia display here. You would press the light button to turn the light on and off, and the little indicator will show there that the light's on, and of course it'll light up at the front and the rear. And we have a nice bright LED light at the rear here as well to help with visibility. Both of the lights are running off of your main battery, which is fantastic. You don't have to worry about charging them up. And in fact, if you accidentally leave your bike on and walk away from it, after about 5 minutes, the bike will power itself off, and it will also turn off the lights at that point, so you don't have to worry about draining your battery. Because they are LED lights, they aren't drawing a lot of power from your battery. So for myself, I always ride with my lights on, and in fact, you can ask us to program the bike so that the lights are permanently on if you wish. Of course, if you do that, you can't actually turn them off. They're just always on. I do that because I prefer to ride with my lights on to be safe. It's not going to blind oncoming traffic. These lights actually meet the German road requirements, which prohibit you from using lights on a bike that would blind oncoming traffic, because of course that's dangerous. So although it's very bright and you can see very well at night with these lights, they're definitely for riding at night, not just for being seen, but they're also going to be very safe, and you're not going to find that you're blinding oncoming traffic. And I really like the fact that the lights are built in, and again are running off the main battery, so you don't have to worry about recharging them, you don't have to worry about bringing them along. They're always there keeping you safe. Now, if you are bringing a child in the Packster 40, or you just don't have enough room for all of your gear in the front, you can actually have Riesenmuller build your bike in Germany with a rear rack like you see here. And I almost always go for the rear rack option when it's available because it's really handy to have. You never know when you might need the extra space. So of course with the rack you can put pannier bags on the rails here. We've got a pannier blocker and we've got a hook here or space for a hook you can use for your panniers. You could put a trunk bag on top. And if you don't have your panniers along and you find that you need to put something on top of the rack, we've got this really cool bungee system here. So you just lift that up and then there's an adjustability here so you can actually make this a little bit bigger, for example, just by sliding this and then put whatever you need to put under there up to a maximum of 20 kilos, 44 pounds, and then put the bungee down and that'll secure any load that you need to put on top of the rack. The nice thing about a bungee compared to in the past, you may have a rack, with a spring-loaded arm that was always noisy and rattling. These bungee cords are silent and very reliable, so it's handy to have that. If you do go for the carry system on the front here that I've got instead of the box, the other cool thing that you can do is you can actually put panniers on these rails here. So not only can you put pannier bags on the rack at the back, but you can also put pannier bags on the side rails on the box at the front. So it gives you lots and lots of storage space. This makes the bike ideal as a touring bike or for bike packing or camping. And maybe you want to bring your dog. You could put the dog in the front and then put 4 panniers, 2 on the back and 2 on the sides to bring all of your stuff and put your tent on the top of the rack. So lots of possibilities when you're loading up your Packster 40. If you are using it for camping or touring or for family adventures, remember if you get the BC Ferries Experience card, bikes are free on the ferry. So this is a great way to go on an adventure, go exploring with the family, bring all the stuff you need. You don't have to pay for a vehicle and you don't even have to pay for your bike. If you do those kinds of things, then I love bringing the cargo bike along to bring lunch or beach gear or any of that kind of stuff that you would want to bring on an adventure. And so in those cases, you may want to go for the dual battery option. So you can see I've selected the dual battery, so that means we've got a Bosch Power Pack 500 here and a Bosch Power Pack 500 mounted down here. You can choose just to have one if you wish, but I love the option of having both batteries. It gives us a kilowatt hour of power, or 1,000 watt hours, which gives you tremendous range, up to 300 kilometers on eco, and it's really very useful having that extended range. These are the Bosch Power Pack 500, which at this point is the largest capacity power pack that Bosch makes. And one of the great things about the Bosch system is these are Bosch specific batteries. They aren't specific to Reese & Mueller. So any bike manufacturer building a Bosch e-bike uses the same batteries. That makes them available all over the world. And so if you travel, for example, in Europe, you'll be able to find the Power Pack 500s very easily. The other neat thing is that when you go with Bosch, these are the Power Pack 500. There's also Power Pack 400, which has 25% less capacity, and we still see those on some bikes because they are lower cost, but they're actually interchangeable and backwards compatible. So when they came out with the 500 watt-hour battery, they purposefully made it the same format, the same size as the 400. So if you bought a Bosch e-bike a few years ago and it came with the 400, you can buy a 500, put it on, and it'll work. And that's one of the great things about the Bosch system. A lot of times we get people that are concerned, 5 years from now, will I be able to get a battery if I need a new one for my e-bike? And I have a lot of confidence that with Bosch, you'll be able to do that because they are so universal and so widespread. So the dual battery option is fantastic because it gives you that extended range. You can charge the batteries on the bike, so there is a charging flap right here that allows you to plug in your charger, and that'll charge both batteries on the bike. But you can also remove the batteries, so you will need the key to remove the battery. You don't need the key to put the batteries on, but for your security, obviously you don't want somebody walking off with your battery, so you would need the key, and that's the same key that you use for the frame lock. And so then you can remove the batteries from the bike and bring them inside. And so to do that, you just turn the key here. There we go, and you can hear it unlock, And the nice thing I like about the power packs is they've got this integrated carrying handle here, so it makes it really easy to bring that inside, and you would just charge the battery by plugging in the charger onto the bottom there. When you're putting the battery back on, it just sits right in there. When you hear the click, then you know that the battery is mounted, and you can always try pulling it off to make sure that it's secure. Things about the dual battery is that it actually draws from each battery and switches back and forth rather than completely depleting one and then switching to the other. The benefit of that is it actually prolongs the lifespan of your battery. When your battery is under stress, of course, that shortens the lifespan. And so when you just use a little bit and then switch to the other one, that can slightly increase the lifespan of the battery because it's under less stress. And you know, the Bosch batteries are more expensive than some of the other batteries on the market, but they also typically last at least 3 times longer than most other e-bike batteries. They're also one of the few battery manufacturers that actually gets UL certification on their batteries to ensure that they're incredibly safe. And so you can have a lot of confidence in knowing that your Bosch batteries are going to last a long time, are going to be safe, and they're going to be reliable. In fact, there's a battery management system built into each battery. So when you charge it, it will make sure that it balances out all of the cells. And in fact, when we connect it to diagnostics, we can actually see for each battery what the maximum temperature and minimum temperature is, the number of charge cycles. And if the battery got really, really hot, if you left it in your car and then you put it on your bike and tried to ride, if it's too hot and would cause damage to the cells, the bike won't turn on. It'll wait you know, a few minutes until the battery's cooler, and then you'll be able to use it. So they've got all sorts of clever things built into the batteries to ensure the longevity of the battery. In fact, one of the other cool things comes into play with the Intuvia display here. You actually have a trip computer, and I can cycle through it either pressing the I button on the remote here, so while I'm riding I don't have to take my hands off of the handlebars, or if I am stopped, or if I take the display with me, because it is removable, I can lock it on by using a set screw through the bottom here into the bottom of the display, and then nobody can remove it. But if you want to be able to remove it, you just press down on the little tab there, pull it off, and you now use the I button on the display here to cycle through the trip computer information. And so that trip computer, let me quickly get over to what I was going to tell you about. Here we go. The range information. So the battery actually knows how much power has gone into it, how much power has gone out of it. And in communicating with the motor, it knows, based on the last few kilometers, how much power you've been using. So it can actually very accurately predict what your estimated range is based on how much power you've got left in the battery and how much riding you've done so far. So when I change levels of assistance, which I do again from the remote here using the plus or minus, and again I can do that without removing my hand from the handlebars, the bike will automatically dynamically adjust and calculate based on the level of assistance and the last few kilometers I've gone, how much further I can go. So you can see when I go up to the higher levels of assistance, of course, my range drops dramatically, and at the lower levels of assistance, it increases dramatically as well. So that's one of my favorite features of the Bosch system, is having that range estimator, and that's part of, you know, the batteries being such an intelligent system. In addition to the range here, now since I'm talking about the trip computer, I'll show you you've also got the odometer, you've got the trip distance, you've got clock, your maximum speed, your average speed, your trip time as well, and battery status. So right now it tells us which battery it's using of the two and the charge status of both of them. And back to the range, of course. And again, that could be cycled through using the I button on the remote or the I button on the display. The other information that's showed on the display, and it's a little bit fuzzy right now because there is a protective film that I've left on to protect the display. It's a very durable display. I've never had any problems with it, but I always like having that little film on a new bike. Top here you can see the battery charge level, 5 bars, so it's completely full, and beside that you can see the level of assistance. And when I'm riding the bike in the test ride video, you'll see that the meter goes up here showing how much assistance the battery is actually, or the motor is actually providing. You've got your current speed and of course the trip information down here. You also can see that my lights are on, and I can control the lights from here normally. Like I said, I've permanently program the lights on. Other things that come up on the display, we actually have shift recommendations. So the Bosch system will actually suggest if you're pedaling with a too fast of a cadence or too low of a cadence, in other words, your legs are spinning too fast or too slowly, it'll actually recommend that you shift up or down in order to make you more efficient and also to make the drive system more efficient and make longer use out of your batteries, which is great. So Bosch has a couple of different display options here in North America. They do have the Purion, which is a much smaller and integrates the remote into the display. It doesn't show as much information. The Intuvia shows a lot more. The Intuvia is removable, as I pointed out, which gives the benefit of being able to put a Kobe on there. So if you check out my video review of the Kobe on our website at citruscycles.ca, you'll see that that's actually an adapter that allows you to slide on and then use your smartphone in place of the Intuvia display, which is really cool. And not only can you use your smartphone to control the bike, but then you can use the remote over here to control your smartphone. So you can actually use navigation, contacts, music, all of that without taking your hands off the handlebars to touch your phone. Instead, you can do everything while both your hands are on the handlebars using the remote. So let me strongly encourage you, if you're riding a cargo bike and you have a passenger with you and you find the need to be able to access your phone, get a Kobe, and then you're going to be able to do so much safer. You can make and receive phone calls, adjust your music, use navigation, all fitness. You can check your cadence, the amount of power that you're putting out, amount of power the bike is putting out. It's really an incredible system, and you can check that out on our website at citruscycles.ca. The other thing I'll mention about the Intuvia display here is we do have a USB port. We use that for diagnostics, but you can also use it for charging your cell phone or GPS or anything like that, which is really handy. The bike does have walk mode, and there's a button right up here, really hard to see, but there it is, and I think it even says walk on it. I don't know if it'll focus, but believe me, it says walk. And when you press and hold that, you'll see on the display here, it will then say walk assist, press plus. So now I would press and hold the plus button and the bike will move along at about a 4 or 5 km/h pace. I love that, especially on a cargo bike, because there are going to be times when you're going to have a heavy load, but you're going to need to walk your bike for some reason. Maybe you're in a pedestrian area, maybe you're getting off the ferry and they don't want you riding up the ferry ramp, but you don't want to have to push your heavy load up the ramp by yourself. Just use the walk mode and that's going to help you climb right up, which is a great feature of the Bosch system. As I've mentioned, this is the Bosch. It's the Performance Line CX. Again, we're really fortunate here in North America. Riesenmuller is exclusively using the Bosch Performance Line CX on their bikes in Europe. You can often get them with the Performance or the Active line. The CX is actually designed by Bosch for mountain bikes, and to that end, they give it the maximum amount of torque, 75 Newton meters of torque. Now, a lot of times people ask me about the wattage of the motor, and to be honest, the more important thing is the torque. Will it get you up the hills? And yes, with the Bosch CX here, it's a great combination on a cargo bike because you are going to have a heavier load, and that's going to help you fly up any hill that you need to. Speaking of hills, one of the advantages of a mid-drive like the Bosch system here is that it does leverage the mechanical advantage that you're getting with your cassette, or in the case of the New Vinci hub. When you change gears or change your gear ratio on the New Vinci, that's going to have a direct impact on the motor. So it's like having the transmission in your vehicle. You wouldn't buy a car or a truck that only has one speed. It would make it really difficult to get up hills. But when you have a bike with a rear hub motor, that in fact is what you have. You have a motor with one speed. On a rear hub motor, when you change gears, it's not impacting the motor at all. It's only impacting your pedaling. But with a mid-drive, when you change those gears, it is having an impact on the motor and helping you to climb up those hills, which is great. Speaking of hills, with the Performance Line CX, it's also very responsive. And so as soon as you put some pressure on the pedals, you're going to get that assistance, so you can actually stop with a heavy load in the middle of a hill. It happens to me often here in Ladysmith. We have some stop signs on some pretty steep hills, and you can get going again because the motor is going to provide that assistance as soon as you start pedaling. And that's one of the great things about the Bosch system. It's very responsive, it's very intelligent, and the power it's going to give you is in proportion to what you need. And I say that because it almost feels like the Bosch system is reading your mind. Now, I know that it's not. Instead, it's reading your speed. So there's a speed sensor back here. It's measuring your cadence, that is, how quickly your legs are moving. And it's measuring your torque, that is, how hard you're pedaling. And it's calculating those 1,000 times per second. And so it knows if you are pedaling harder because you've got a hill and it gives you more power. It knows if you suddenly ease off the power because you've got a tricky corner coming up and you don't want a surge of power, then it knows that, and it doesn't give you the surge of power that some bikes would, and that would cause you to lose confidence in the bike. One of the great things about the Bosch system is it's very confidence inspiring. It's very natural feeling. You're never going to feel out of control. You're never going to feel a surge of power that you don't expect. It's always going to be exactly what you expect because it's making those calculations and adjusting accordingly. The other great thing about, I keep saying the other, there's so many great things about the Bosch line and the performance line CX. We've got the weight, low and centered here. It's very natural feeling. But the CX also takes advantage of what Bosch calls e-mountain bike mode. So we've got Eco as our lowest level of assistance. You can also turn the assistance off and just ride it like a regular bike. We have Tour, which gives you 120% of your input power. So it's like having yourself and 20% more extra helping you out. When you go up to EMTB, or up to what the display says is here Sport, it'll flash down here EMTB. Let me do that again. There you go, EMTB. Bosch originally designed that for mountain biking. And what it does is a dynamic adaptive mode that, based on how hard you're pedaling and a few other things, it figures out how much power you need. So if you get to a hill and you start pedaling hard to go up the hill, without you having to adjust this, if you just leave it in Sport or EMTB, it's going to move you all the way up to the 300% turbo mode, which is the maximum amount of power. When you get to the top of the hill and you start easing off on your pedaling, it's going to move you back down to Sport or down to Tour, the 120%. It does that all automatically. Now for a mountain bike, that's ideal because now you're no longer having to adjust the levels, you just ride. It's also ideal on a cargo bike. It's a set it and forget it setting. You just put it on Sport and now you don't have to worry about focusing on adjusting the levels, you just ride. What I like about that is I'm known for putting it on turbo to get to the top of the hill and then forgetting when I get to the top of the hill and leaving it on turbo. And I'm cruising along going, wow, I'm just so fast today. And then, oh, right, I've left it on turbo. And so that's going to reduce my range. Well, if you can leave it on the Sport or the EMTB mode, then when you get to the top of the hill, it's going to move you back down to Tour, and so it's going to lengthen your range. For example, you can see the difference. If I go up to Turbo, I've only got 91 kilometers of my range. When I go down to Tour, I've got 148 kilometers. So ideally, you do want to adjust your levels appropriately for the range that you need to achieve, and with that EMTB mode, you can certainly do that. Okay, so hopefully I haven't forgot anything about the Bosch system. It's a great system, very responsive, lots of power to get you up the hills and the distances that you need. I love having that dual battery option. Bosch, they have a couple service centers in Canada. Most bike shops are trained in how to deal with the Bosch system, but generally speaking, nothing ever needs to be done. It's completely reliable, maintenance-free, and very easy to use. I'm going to take you on a ride test. If I've missed anything, I'm sure that I have, then head over to our website at citruscycles.ca. Feel free to ask questions, call or email. I'm happy to answer them for you. As you can tell, I'm pretty excited about the Packster 40. I've put a lot of kilometers on my Packster 80 and I loved it. And I'm really excited for a crossover type of cargo e-bike. It's going to be really maneuverable. It's still very practical. You know, there's really very little I would change about this. Yes, I would change the pedals, and that's a personal preference. But I think they did a really good job designing the bike. If you want something that is going to be really reliable, that's easy to ride, is going to last a really long time, this is a great choice. And I probably didn't emphasize that enough during this video. You'll probably rely on your cargo bike to get you where you need to go. So it's worth investing in a cargo e-bike that has the top quality components, that drive system, that you don't have to worry about reliability. And that's one of my favorite things about the Riese Mueller bikes. Not only is the quality really high because the bikes are made by hand in Germany, but they also choose reliable components such as that Bosch drive system that's going to last a really long time and have parts available well into the future. So if my enthusiasm about cargo bikes has caused you to think about the possibility of how one could improve your life, call or email so you can come try one today. You can find all of our contact info at citruscycles.ca, and I hope you enjoy my test ride with you. Well, today's a great day to do a ride test video. It's a little bit above freezing, 2 or 3 Celsius. The roads are wet, which is something I always like when I'm testing a bike. It gives me a chance to check and see how well the tires are going to perform in less than ideal conditions. And right now I don't have a passenger with me, as you can see. I do have a load of library books that my wife wanted me to return to the library, along with my laptop and a few other things. But generally, you know, you won't notice any loads in the front. The bike handles the same regardless. And I always recommend your first ride or two, you know, try riding the bike without a passenger, just to get yourself used to how the bike handles. At first, it's probably going to be a little bit odd because you're not used to having your front wheel so far in front of you. And so a tip I give to customers that come to test ride is don't look at the box. I mean, that's, your eyes can be drawn to it. It's not used to seeing that there. You're going to be looking in front of you. Now, when you don't have the tire on here, it's nice because there is a cutout that lets you see the front wheel. So that helps because our brains, when riding a bike, is used to seeing the front wheel in front of us. So my tip is look ahead. Look where you want to go. Forget about what's in front of you here. Forget about the box. Just look straight ahead where you want to go, and you'll very quickly get used to it, because when you're looking ahead, you know, the distraction of the box kind of goes away, and now it just handles like a regular bike. If you're looking down at the box and trying to steer, you're probably going to oversteer. You're probably going to turn too tight because there's something in your brain saying, well, you're not turning because you know the wheel's so far away, or you're not seeing the wheel if you've got the tarp on, or if you've got a passenger. And so that's pretty common, is for people to oversteer. And that's very easily resolved. Simply look where you want to go, look ahead of you, which is a safer thing to do anyways. And you'll find that then it handles just like a regular bike. And I can, you know, do all sorts of things with it. And it handles really well. Now you'll hear that front brake a little bit throughout the video. And that's not unusual. When the road's wet like this, it's getting kicking up moisture onto the rotor there, and so when that's wet, especially with new brake pads like these are, you are going to get a little bit of squeaking. Purposely weaving a little bit here just to you know, see how well the bike is going to handle with the moisture on the road. So far it's doing really well. Huh? Now, one thing I have noticed on other test rides of the bike is the gearing is actually really good. I'm almost at 60 kilometers an hour, and I can still pedal and provide some input. And you'll see my cadence was getting close to the 90s there, which is, you know, getting a little bit on the higher side. But you can go fast on this bike. You can down the hills or on flats with the wind at your back, of course, because the motor's going to stop assisting at 32 kilometers an hour. That's the regulations here in Canada. But yeah, with that high gear there, you can actually get up some pretty good speed before you're spinning your legs too fast. For climbing as well, I've found that it works quite well. Try to get you on some steeper hills than this. This one isn't too steep, it's just fairly long. So I popped it up into turbo, feeling a little lazy this morning. I could have just left it in sport and then pedaled a little harder. And when I pedal harder, it automatically goes up to the turbo when I'm on that sport mode, because that's the adaptive EMTB mode. I have noticed the difference with this Suntour XCM suspension fork compared to the previous fork on previous model years. It's actually quite a nice fork. My daughter's noticed as well riding. When I take her to ballet, there's a bump that we always joke about, and we were both surprised when we rode over it, and neither of us really felt it because that suspension fork did a really good job of absorbing the bump. It's a really fun bike to ride. I love the riding position here. Of course, you've got the adjustability with the handlebars. You can bring them up or bring them down. And as you adjust the seat height, of course, that moves you further back. But it's a nice upright position. You can see around you really well. It's a lot of fun to ride. It handles really well. And of course, having that Bosch CX drive is great. It really helps for climbing these hills. Shifting is very smooth, which is what I would expect with the Shimano Dior system here, the Shadow Plus. And of course the brakes are very reliable. The Tektro is quite popular, and for a good reason. They're generally reliable, don't require a lot of maintenance, and have good stopping power. Especially with that larger 203mm rotor in the back. Helps with cooling if you've got a long descent. Alright, well, I'll take a break here and do a bunch more. We'll do some trail riding, I'll do with some passengers. You'll get an idea of what the bike can do. So for the test ride, I've enlisted the help of my daughter. She's 10 and a half and about 138 centimeters. And that's probably, if she got too much taller than that, which I think she probably will, it would get a little bit squishy in the Packster 40. So for passengers taller than that, you may want to consider the Packster 60 or even the Packster 80, which has a lot more room. I don't have it set up with the child seat, so if I did that, that would add a nice backrest for her. And it would actually give her a little bit more room inside, because what is being used as the glove compartment right now, that lid would open up and she would have more room for her feet, which would give her a little bit more room. So I'm gonna start with the camera on me for a while, and then I'll give her the camera, and you'll get to see a few more vantage points with the bike. I'm using the Kobe today rather than the Intuvia display, which comes with the bike. I really appreciate the fact that it comes with the Intuvia so that I can use the Kobe, and that gives you a lot more information. You can actually watch a video review of the Kobe on our website at citruscycles.ca. With the Kobe, you've got fitness information, navigation, you can control your music, and phone calls, all from the Bosch thumb controllers here, which is fantastic. Now, one of the nice things for passengers and for the person pedaling the bike as well, I'm not sure if that'd be considered the captain like in a tandem or not, but the nice thing is we do have the front suspension fork, so that helps to smooth out the ride, especially if there's potholes or that sort of thing. I do really like box bikes. It's nice because we can see each other, and if she decides that she doesn't want to be a passenger anymore, I'll notice. Whereas on the back, she might be able to sneak off. What do you think? On the brew hall, do you think you'd be able to sneak off the back and I wouldn't notice you were gone?
No, probably because the bike would still be riding and I don't really want to get scratched up.
No. But it is nice that it's easier to talk this way than on the brew hall or spicy curry, isn't it? Yeah. Box bikes are also great in terms of weight distribution. It handles really well. So you can see I'm going fairly quickly, and that's because I do have a lot of confidence in the bike and the handling. Handles just like a regular bike. Great brakes. Lots of modulation on them, lots of stopping power. With the touring edition, which is what I'm riding right now, it's got the chain cassette derailleur. I do have to downshift before I stop. It is something I like about having it with the New Vinci and the Gates carbon belt, aside from having no maintenance, which is fantastic. It's also nice not having to think ahead and downshift. I can just downshift once I'm stopped. When we are stopped, the bike is very stable. It's well balanced and not difficult at all. Even if the passenger wiggles around a little bit, it's still easy enough to manage the bike. Alright, here we go.
This bike is a bit squishy, but it's pretty fun.
It is pretty fun, but you're finding it's a little bit squishy given that you're getting taller. You used to ride the Packster 80.
Yeah, I just have long legs, so that's fine.
And the Packster 80 you could stretch right out, couldn't you?
The Packster 80 has much more room because I could sit down in the middle and have my backpack when I was riding to school on one side, and then maybe have my gloves or jacket if I don't want them on.
That's true. So
So it was quite a lot of room plus extra.
with the Packster 40 we have to put your backpack on the back rack
Yeah,
and bungee it on.
otherwise it's quite squishy.
Yep. Or we'd have to bring panniers instead of backpacks, but backpacks will work a little bit better at school.
Yeah, panniers would be kind of hard.
Alright, well we're going to go up this hill, and at the top of the hill we'll switch the camera.
So you get a better other view than just me.
That's right. View of the rest of the bike from the passenger's perspective.
And maybe some view of the trees on Stalking Creek there.
Yeah, leaves are starting to come out. It's a beautiful spring day. Now with the Packster 80, you usually sat the same way that you're sitting now. But you could face the other way, couldn't you?
Yeah, I always ride this way on any time because both of them, when you ride this way, there's this cord
Right.
on the bike, so it kind of
You just have to
hits your
watch out for
head,
that.
And I don't really like that. I sat almost the same way, except I had my legs stretched out because it was much longer.
Yes. So you can see, you know, it's a bit of an incline here. I put it onto turbo and still able to hit that 26-27 km/h speed, even up the hill on turbo. So it is quite powerful. It's nice having the CX. It means you're going to make it up any hill no matter how steep, and you'll be able to make it up the not crazy steep hills at a really good speed. We'll go back down to sport. Now that we're at the top here, I just wanted to show you that you could actually just leave it in sport the whole time, because with the Bosch CX drive, which we have, sport is actually e-mountain bike mode, and that's where the bike dynamically adjusts for you, automatically moving it up to turbo when you need it for hills and back down to sport or tour when you're on flat. And that's really great on a cargo bike especially. It's one less thing that you have to think about. You don't have to worry about adjusting the levels. Yep.
Because soon
We're gonna switch here in Stocking Creek
camera.
Trail, aren't we?
now we're in Saltaire.
Yep, now we're in Saltaire.
I wonder if it's salty there.
Well, the air is, that's for sure.
Well, I guess the ocean.
Alright, so we'll just make a stop up here, switch the camera angle for you, and we'll also get on some hard pack gravel trail just to show you that the Packster 40 is capable of a lot more than just urban riding. Make a great bike for bike camping, touring, because you can fit everything you need in it, and it can still handle trail riding and that sort of thing. So there we go, we'll do that for a little bit, and then we'll show you some of the trail and some of the bike. So this is, from the passenger's perspective, what it looks like. And is it pretty fun being a passenger in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, the nice thing about the Packster 40 is it's fairly narrow. So when you need to get around barriers like that barrier back there, it's really easy to get around. Take a look at some of the trail. It's quite a nice trail. My favorite trails to ride. Put the camera way out the side so that the bike looks like it's riding. There we go. Even further. You don't have to get too close to the tree. There we go. Angle it so they can see the back wheel while you do that. Keep it out there.
But it's crooked.
That's alright. And now move it towards the front. That way. There. And now stick it back out though the side. And that way you can see the back wheel. There we go. Yeah, that's all good. Yeah, there it is. Thanks.
Hello
There we
again.
go. Tightened it up. I love the kickstand because you can easily release it simply by pushing the bike forward, and the kickstand releases, even if you have a passenger or a heavy load.
Now I'm gonna give you a quick glance at the front tire.
Alright. Way out in the front. Small tires. Can't see the tire normally while I'm riding. It is there.
Now I'll give you another view how the tire road look like.
This is the Stocking Creek Trail.
quite.
With these wider tires, a little bit over 2 inches wide, so it really makes it possible to get onto soft and loose stuff without too many concerns. You can see we've got some mud in here. It's real mixed terrain. We've got mud, we've got some hard packed gravel, some loose gravel, and really handles it all just fine. You can see we've got roots and some rocks in here as well. How's it feeling up there?
Yes.
Not too bad with all these bumps?
I can hardly feel it.
That's good. So you can turn the camera around to show the trail
Like
as we
this?
head towards it. There you go. Make it a little higher and then you can see. There, perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. Look at all these rocks here. Woo. How was that?
Yes.
Not too bad? So, yeah, I mean, obviously you're not going to do jumps with your cargo bike, but you want to come mountain biking on trails like this, it's doable. And the great thing is, now you've got some options. So now, instead of taking the shortest, most efficient way home, you've got an e-bike, take the exciting way, take the beautiful way, take the fun way, take the adventurous way. Those are all things you can do. You notice that really windy section back through there, not a problem. You've got right 40. It's actually not much longer than a regular bike, so it's quite maneuverable. And it just opens up so many options. You can just explore it. When you see a trail and wonder where it goes, find out, go explore it, see where it goes. It's a lot of fun. Alright, so hopefully this ride test has been helpful for you. I'm going to try to get the camera up a little bit more. Like that. There we go. So I can say ciao. For all the details on this bike, pricing, if you have any questions, if I've forgotten something in the video review, just head on over to our website at citruscycles.ca. Alright, here's some bonus footage. We're going to go mountain biking down the Gorley Jane Park. We've got some loose rocks here, big hill, no problem. Gonna go in search of some flowers on a mountain biking trail with a cargo bike. Just to show you that you can do a lot with a cargo bike and do lots of adventures. This is a trail that I enjoy coming on and doing a few quick rounds on. It's windy. And you can see how well the bike corners and handles really well. We've got lots of loose gravel here and I'm not sliding out on it at all. Are you a little bit worried? You're thinking, this is crazy. Oh, it's fun. Ooh, there, look to your left. See the flowers down there? Yeah, and up here on your left there's going to be a bunch more as well. Oh, on both sides. See all the snowdrops? Right here, there. Now look on the other side. Other side.
I can see them.
Yeah, but look at all these ones. Wow, they're amazing. Tons of them. So that's the fun thing, is just being able to go wherever you want to go. Of course, we've got a massive hill to climb again, but that's okay. We can completely do that because we have the Bosch CX drive.